Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. There were a bunch of trailers at the Super Bowl this weekend, typical big movies you'd expect, like big Marvel trailer for the Thunderbolts, which had Marvel's version of Superman, like we're talking about Superman, big coincidence there. Other big non-comic book movie trailers, and then there was the Superman footage. Definitely something, lot to talk about, not quite what everyone was expecting from the Superman movie. It was mostly an extended look at Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner Green Lantern, some special trailers of James Gunn hyping up Krypto in the movie and the reason he included him in the movie in a shorter version of the previous trailer. Did not get the typical type of hype you would expect from Superman footage. Everyone was expecting a more traditional trailer with more new footage of some kind, but I'll explain what was going on with Nathan Fillion Green Lantern. Why it was probably a bad move on James Gunn and DC's part to make this their big reveal, and a good move at the same time. Generally, I've always felt like DC's marketing has never been quite as good as other Marvel or non-comic book movie studios. Like, they definitely took a swing during this Super Bowl, like you're really going for something there. But they do have a history of doing stuff like this, especially at Super Bowls, so it shouldn't be a huge surprise that they didn't swing really big with like a real traditional push. Normally, people wouldn't think too much of it if it were just a normal DC movie, but because we're heading into a brand new Superman movie reboot with David Corenswet, and it's the beginning of James Gunn's big reboot of all DC movies, everyone is just waiting to see if it's actually going to work out for them long term. So that's why there's so much more discussion going on about what DC was doing versus Marvel and other big studios. So much is riding on this Superman movie doing well. You have to imagine if it doesn't work out, James Gunn already said that they're going to have to change a lot of their plans for the upcoming movies. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Starting with the biggest stuff first, Nathan Fillion, Guy Gardner Green Lantern. Most comic book fans probably saw this new footage DC released and instantly understood the vibe DC was going for with this. Like, there is something weird going on here. Why is it so crazy? Why is he such a big douchebag? The problem is when you look at the reactions from non-comic book fans who comprise most of the audience, like typical big comic book fans that have been following this for a long time, are the smallest part of the audience that's supposed to go see this movie. They need everybody on the planet, like everyone and their grandma, to go see this Superman movie. So you wind up with most people going in to see the movie having no idea who most of the characters are besides Superman. Most casual fans probably couldn't tell you the difference between Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart, the other major Green Lanterns. But this is a very tongue-in-cheek kind of promo. It's supposed to be funny, like you're meant to laugh at Nathan Fillion during this. Is trying to come off like an epic douchebag because that's exactly how Guy Gardner is in the comics. He's actually relatively accurate in that portrayal. Even though the bowl cut joke is kind of cringe, the bowl cut itself is accurate, even though there is some ginger erasure going on here. Technically, Guy Gardner is a ginger. My early assumption is that James Gunn probably did costume tests for Guy Gardner and put a ginger wig on Nathan Fillion's head, and it looks way too ridiculous. Like, he wanted him to look ridiculous like the comics. Apparently going full ginger was just too far for this movie. But I think most non-comic book fans were probably totally confused when they saw him for the first time. Like, why does he look so silly? Shouldn't Nathan Fillion be playing Hal Jordan like the main Green Lantern? Isn't he supposed to be a badass? What's going on? In the context of the actual Superman movie, very clearly, just based on the trailer footage we have of him already, he's going to be just as big of a douche as he is in the Super Bowl footage here. What James Gunn has said is that the Superman movie is mostly going to be about how David Corenswet's new Superman is this Boy Scout of a person who tries to be nice, the paragon of goodness, in a world that doesn't seem like it shares those kinds of values. A really good comp to make is that the world of the DCU in present day is a lot like the world of real-life Twitter. Everybody is terrible to each other, behaving badly, saying the worst possible things that you could possibly say, and thinking that they'll get away with it. People like Lex Luthor probably going to be used for some Elon Musk jokes in the movie, but you get the idea. But according to James Gunn, through his actions in the movie, Superman is supposed to remind people of a time when everyone wasn't so terrible to each other. Just in general, the world was a nicer place, more understanding kind of place. And I think this means that he's using the Guy Gardner Green Lantern as an example of the worst kind of superhero who says he's a hero, uses Green Lantern ring, his powers to stop dangerous threats from space, like all Green Lanterns normally would. But in reality, he's the worst possible person you could imagine. Super cynical, he probably hates people just in general. He fires his Green Lantern ring at a crowd of regular bystanders outside the building here in the trailer, something Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart would never do. And I think he's one example in the movie how superheroes in present day can be just as terrible as regular supervillains, and it's not all black and white as to who's bad and who's good, who's a supervillain, who's a superhero. You probably have villains who are totally chill dudes, love humanity. Really good example of this phenomenon is Lex Luthor, who's traditionally a villain to Superman in the comics. You typically think of Superman as the hero, Lex Luthor as the villain, but if you look at it from Lex Luthor's perspective, he actually hates Superman because he feels like Superman's presence weakens humanity. Because they rely on him so much, Lex Luthor feels like it dooms the human race to eventual extinction because they won't gain the skills or the abilities that they need to save themselves someday. So if you were talking to Lex Luthor, he would say that he's the ultimate humanist. But if they don't wind up killing off Guy Gardner totally in the movie, I'm hoping they don't because Nathan Fillion is awesome, hopefully they keep him around much longer, is that Superman will slowly turn him around on being a dick all the time through his actions in the movie. Like the movie ends, and Guy Gardner, if he's still alive, is slightly less of an ass going forward. Superman, through his actions, starts to inspire people to be better on the planet. If you haven't been following the character in the comics for a long time, originally Guy Gardner was created in the late 1960s during the Silver Age, but didn't become the main Green Lantern of the comics till the 1980s. When he debuted, they said he was meant to represent a jingoistic parody of an ultra-macho, red-blooded American male, and they've kept that depiction of his character to the comics in present day as well. Like, he's always been that way in the comics. So when you see Nathan Fillion looking all ridiculous, acting like a giant douche, Guy Gardner has always been like this, always looked like this. Which is why most comic book fans probably understood the joke here. Like, oh, this is meant to be a funny clip, you're meant to laugh at him. He will probably get his ass handed to him in the movie. But you have all the casuals on the other side of this thinking this is the most terrible looking thing ever. Like, why would you use this as your Super Bowl trailer? This is crazy. So that's why it's generally probably a bad idea for DC to use this joke. Like, they probably should have just gone with a straight-up traditional Super Bowl trailer. There are a couple other big Easter eggs going on in this footage, though. Like, we get a much better look at his Green Lantern suit and his Green Lantern ring. And there's a lot we can say about the suit itself. Like, there's a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy comments going on here. But zoom and enhance on his Green Lantern ring. Notice that it looks like the exact same one that Ryan Reynolds wore during the Green Lantern movie when he played Hal Jordan. Like, the design is the exact same. Ryan Reynolds said after that Green Lantern movie, because it was a super suit, like it was totally CG, which he then made fun of extensively during the first Deadpool movie, he couldn't steal the actual suit from set after they finished filming, but he did steal his Green Lantern ring from the movie, which he still has today. You might remember during the pandemic a couple years ago, this is him wearing that ring, drinking his aviation gin, which he owned the brand at the time, like he sold it since then, so this was a sly advertisement for a product that he was selling. But this was him rewatching that Green Lantern movie for the first time since the premiere in 2011. He said he never watched the movie again after he saw it at the premiere. Made fun of it constantly through all the Deadpool movies, although I don't remember a ton of Green Lantern jokes in Deadpool and Wolverine because most of that movie was clowning on the Fox era of Marvel X-Men movies, other pre-MCU Marvel movies, so they were already stuffing that with those kinds of jokes. The closest he got to making a DC joke during that was actually a Rock Black Adam joke about the hierarchy of power changing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of the funnier things, too, is that when James Gunn was hired by DC officially to reboot the movies, start working on the Superman movie, everything else, he said one of his first phone calls was to Ryan Reynolds asking if he wanted to come back and play his Hal Jordan Green Lantern again. That was mostly them being bros and James Gunn joking with him, but I love how quickly Ryan Reynolds dismissed the idea, like absolute hard pass, even though obviously he understood that they were just joking with each other. If for some crazy reason he'd actually told James Gunn yes, he would come back as Hal Jordan, they probably would have used some old age makeup and he'd have been a grizzled, older version of his Hal Jordan to the younger Jon Stewart during the Green Lantern HBO show that they're about to film right now. But he absolutely hated Green Lantern, makes fun of it all the time, never wants to come back, and probably didn't want to sign up for another 10 years of DC movies and a long-running TV show commitment. Most of his time now spent in the Marvel Universe as Marvel Jesus. Deadpool, very bright history in the future of Marvel movies. They will definitely make him do those until he's 90. The other big thing most people were talking about in this whole Green Lantern promo was mostly clowning on Guy Gardner's suit. It looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy style physical suit. So a lot of people were thinking, between this and the trailer that we've already seen, that the Superman movie would just be Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, but with DC characters. But the actual suit has a lot of Easter eggs baked into it, like it's the same type of suit that Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific are wearing, and they all have Maxwell Lord's company logo on them. He's being played by James Gunn's brother Sean Gunn, who's Kraglin in all the Marvel movies. I think this means, in the context of the Superman movie, Maxwell Lord is sponsoring their smaller team. They look kind of like the Terrifics, but it's kind of a Justice League International Easter egg from the comics because that was the version of the team that Maxwell Lord sponsored. But in the actual movie itself, they're not the Justice League or a version of the Justice League. James Gunn said that they don't even exist yet. Like, there's been no discussion of any Justice League happening. That won't actually start till you start to see Batman and the other main big characters of the DCU start to surface. But I think the whole idea of these cynical superheroes, like this cynical world, you have Maxwell Lord sponsoring their team, paying them a salary, like they're professional superheroes, like professional athletes with endorsements. There have been a lot of examples of this in other superhero movies, other comic book properties, like Mystery Men back in the day is a good example of this, and on The Boys, because the Seven, Homelander, all superheroes in that world are created by Vought and used solely for the purpose of making more money, merchandising, movies, all that stuff. It'd be like if Disney had an actual Compound V serum to create the superheroes in the Marvel movies as if they were real people. But instead of using them to make the world better, they just use them purely for this giant profit machine, this big corporate machine. So the whole idea of this sponsored superhero team in the DCU in Superman is just another example of how cynical the world has gotten, and Superman is the juxtaposition for that, like the ultimate Boy Scout, the paragon of goodness, because he helps people without any expectation of money or being paid for his work. If you actually thought about it, Superman in the comics is meant to be very poor compared to typical characters. Like Batman is probably an extreme example because he's a billionaire. But he's actually kind of poor compared to even normal level superheroes because his only real income is from the Daily Planet, and reporters, if you don't know, get paid really, really badly. But everyone posts all your Superman and Green Lantern reactions in the comments. It's definitely something, like there'll be a lot of talk about this for a little while until they release the next big trailer. I just did a much bigger video for Marvel's Thunderbolts trailer, which, funny enough, is basically Marvel's version of Superman, the way they're using him in that movie. Sentry is a little bit more like Homelander than like Superman, though. Marvel also has the Hyperion character, and his backstory reads a lot like Superman's backstory too, so there are a lot of Superman parodies inside the Marvel universe. Everybody click here for that, and everybody click here for all my Superman and Supergirl videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.